What's up, guys? So today we're going to be talking about the 2021 Subrosa bike line. I just finished putting all these reviews down on my website. I'm going to be working on Fit's video next. Fit Sunday and Fly is coming out very soon, so stay on the lookout for that. Subscribe so you don't miss out. One thing, if you do want a bike recommendation from me, there's a link in the description and it'll take you over to my website. Fill out the form, tell me your skill level, your budget, your height, things like that. I'll take a look at all the 2021 bikes and I'll recommend 3 of them that are a perfect fit for you. I know shopping for a BMX bike is stressful because you'd hate to spend $500, $600, $700 on the wrong bike. So by letting me do this for you, you'll save yourself a lot of headache. With that being said, in this 2021 line, we have the Subrosa Sono, the Subrosa Trio, the Subrosa Salvador, Subrosa Letum, Subrosa Malum, and the Subrosa Novus, which comes in Trey Jones signature and a Matt Ray signature. There's so many different options in this bike line. Some of them are good quality, some of them are okay quality, but it is a really interesting bike line worth looking at. So stay tuned, let's hop right into it. I lied. The 2021 Subrosa Sono. Now this is a low-level beginner bike. It's at a low price, designed to help people get into the sport without spending too much money. With that being said, it's not the best quality, but it does serve its purpose of being an entry-level bike. So if you're at a real low level, this is a good bike to start out on. However, if you're riding at a mid to high level, this would not be very good just because it's going to break on you. Now it comes in 2 different variations. This is the Subrosa Sono and the Sono XL, which is a 21-inch top tube. Well, the Subrosa Sono is designed for someone who is brand new to the sport, meaning you're probably not very good, but you have a basic understanding of what BMX is. Maybe you had a real low-level Walmart bike, but this is your first true BMX bike. It is well-rounded, meaning it's good on street, dirt, and park. There's nothing too specific on it that makes it better for one discipline than the other. Now it costs $330, which is well under the $500 price point that I always hope bike companies are able to hit, just because $500 is a good price for gift giving. A lot of parents are willing to spend that on a birthday present or a Christmas present. So by keeping it under that price, they're helping more people get into the sport. Now the normal size is a 20.5-inch top tube, and it comes in 2 different colors. It comes in black and it comes in navy. The XL version, which is the 21-inch top tube, comes in granite gray and army green. A couple important specs about the bike is the 13.2-inch chainstay. Anything over 13 I do consider just a little bit longer, meaning this is going to give you more stability and more control. However, it's going to make spins just a little bit harder. Now the Colt Complete bikes come with a 13.6-inch chainstay, so compared to that, this 13.2-inch chainstay is a little bit smaller, and it will make spins easier than the equivalent, which is probably the Colt Control or the Colt Gateway. So it's a better choice than like a real low-end department store bike, like a $100 Mongoose or something along those lines. I do recommend this bike over some of those lower end brands like Mafia or like Elite, just because Subrosa is a core BMX brand that actually contributes to the sport. So I'd much rather see someone buy a $300 bike from Subrosa versus a $300 bike from Elite, which doesn't sponsor riders, doesn't host events, doesn't do anything like that for the actual BMX economy. Is it worth the price? Normally, I'd say no, just because of how low quality it is with unsealed bearings and full high tensile steel. But since it is only $330, it makes a very fair case to be worth this price, if that makes any sense. So I would recommend it. However, if you plan to get up to a mid-level of riding, go ahead and look at something with a chromoly front triangle at the very least, because a bike like that's going to hold up a lot longer for you, and it's also going to make it so that you can progress without having to replace parts so often. And that's going to be the Subrosa Sono. It's designed for entry-level riders who want their first BMX bike, and also people who want to buy from a real BMX brand that supports riders, hosts events, and does awesome things. Subrosa has a lot of really good aftermarket parts, and this bike is one that you will easily be able to change things out on. For example, if you want to get a purple stem, any BMX stem is going to fit this bike. Any BMX pedals are going to fit this bike. So with that being said, it is a pretty good bike, but if you plan to ride longer, go ahead and look at a mid-level bike, just so that you don't have to constantly replace broken parts. And that's the Subrosa Sono. Sona. I don't know, I think it's Sono, but whatever. Alright, so let's talk about the Subrosa Trio. This is one of Subrosa's most popular bikes just because it's such a good price, and it also has lots of options, making it suitable for just about any BMX rider. It's going to come in 4 different variations, which are the Subrosa Trio, the Trio Large, Trio XL, and the Trio XXL. Now, I mentioned this in the beginning of the video about the XXL being a 21.3 inch top tube, which is actually crazy to me. I ride a 21 inch, I'm 6'4", I could definitely fit really good on a 21.3 inch, but for a lot of beginner level riders who are just getting into the sport that are really tall, it's hard to find a bike that's going to fit you. It's hard to find a complete bike that's going to fit you, and this provides a great option for you if you're really tall and also a beginner level. The Trio also has some aftermarket components from Subrosa and Shadow Conspiracy, making it a lot stronger than some of the other entry-level bikes from a different brand. The Trio is built for brand new riders. It has a full high-tensile steel frame, forks, and bars, single-wall rims, but lots of different top tube options. So if you're riding at a really high level or even a mid-level, these parts are not going to hold up for you. However, if you're just getting into the sport, you want to learn bunny hops, disasters, 180s, and some of those smaller tricks, this is a good bike to test out. If you plan to progress and keep riding the sport, you should look at something that's a little better quality, but this is going to work out just fine if you just want to try the sport and learn some beginner tricks. It costs $359 and has a whole bunch of different color options depending on the variation you pick. So I'm going to talk about the different variations and the colors associated with them. The normal Trio, which is a 20.5 inch top tube, comes in black and it comes in white. Now the large version only comes in matte raw. The XL version comes in black and matte raw. And then the XXL version, which is that 21.3 inch top tube, comes in black. Now the important geometry on this bike is the 13.2 inch chainstay, which is about average length, and it's going to give you a good balance of stability and control, but not making it too hard to learn spins. That longer back end has a wider balance point, which means that manuals will be a little easier for you to control, and hopping higher is also going to be easier. It has an 8.5 inch standover, which is, I don't know, I'd say 9 is about the generic street standover, so 8.5 is a little bit shorter. All this does is it gives you a little bit less room to pinch your seat, which makes bar spins harder, but it's going to make tail whips easier. If you're at the level to do bar spins or tail whips, I really recommend looking at a mid-level bike and not necessarily this one. It has 30mm offset forks. The two popular sizes are 32mm and 25mm. So these are almost right in the middle. And with a steeper fork offset, nose manuals are going to be easier to get into, and the bike's going to feel really responsive and really snappy when you steer. And on the contrast, the 32mm forks are going to be really slow to respond and ultimately give you a better flowy feeling. Is it a good bike? I say it is, just because it's so popular and it does have some of those aftermarket components. However, it is just high tensile steel, and like I mentioned before, I wouldn't recommend it if you plan to be doing some crazy tricks like bar spins or like tail whips. At $360, it's just a little bit more expensive than the Subrosa Sono, and it does add in those aftermarket parts like I mentioned before. So to me, it really is worth the price, but I can't stress it enough. Only buy this bike if you're a complete beginner rider and you just want to learn those beginner level tricks. And that's the Subrosa Trio. If you have any questions about it, I encourage you to just leave a comment, ask me what you got, and I'll make sure to reply sometime within the week. I'm a pretty busy guy, but I'll try my best. Alright, the 2021 Subrosa Salvador. Now, this bike is kind of funny to me because I have a story that goes with it. So around 2014, 6 years ago, I had an Eastern, trail digger or shovelhead bike. I can't remember, honestly. But my friend Cole just got a brand new Subrosa bike, and we were so excited for him. As soon as he got it, I think it was for his birthday, but me and the rest of my friends took turns riding it, bunny hopping it, trying 180s, and all those tricks. But it was actually a really good bike. And so now that I'm more into it, I'm learning what the different specs mean, and I'm looking at the different parts that come on it. I was like, oh, that's why that trick was so easy, or oh, that's why we couldn't do that on it. But we loaded up in his mom's truck. We went to Tucson, Arizona to ride Premises Park. If you guys have heard of it, it's a really cool indoor skate park in Tucson. They've had 4 or 5 different versions, and the version we went to was one of the first. They had a backyard like outdoor mini. It was super fun. But so this bike hits home just because somebody close to me, it's associated with so many good memories. The 2021 model though comes in a bunch of different colors, and it looks like really clean, if that makes sense. It's not crazy. There's no crazy flashy colors. It's just a nice clean bike, even the one with red tires. So it's going to come in a bunch of different variations, which is another reason that I really like this bike. It comes in the normal Salvador, a free coaster version, an XL version, and a park version for you park rats. So the park version is going to have a more compact frame. It's going to come with brakes, and it's going to be a lot easier to do really technical park tricks on. But I'll talk about that later. The Salvador is for anybody who has already been riding bikes and is looking for a decent upgrade to help get them to mid-level. Now, I don't classify this bike as a mid-level bike just due to the fact that it's not a full chromoly frame, something that's really important to me. However, it is a really good upgrade from a low-end bike like the Subrosa Sono. It has better quality parts, and it has some more aftermarket parts. Another cool thing I like is that you're able to pick from these variations, and you're able to get a bike that's going to suit your riding style a lot better than just picking a general bike. Depending on the variation you get, this bike is good for tricks like 360s, grinding, feeble, smith, double pegs, even on handrails. Honestly, if you can hop that high and you have the pegs, this bike can hold up to it. However, it's not going to be very good for tail whips, backflips, 720s, just because the lower quality rim and the back end of the frame is going to start to bend as you do more spins. So keep that in mind. The price ranges from $450 to $459, again, depending on the variation that you get. So the Salvador bike is a 20.5 inch top tube, and it comes in black and it comes in raw. The XL version is a 21 inch top tube, and it comes in black and it comes in sage green. The free coaster version is also a 21 inch top tube. However, it only comes in matte trans black. I really do like this matte trans black though. It looks sick. Alright, and the park variation comes in a 20.5. and it only comes in one color. It comes in a matte raw. Now this park version is super compact. Alright, so I'm just going to go on a quick tangent about the park bike because it really is almost its own bike just because it's so different from the other Salvador variations. It's a 20.5 inch top tube. There's a size guide on my website, or just Google BMX size guide. Figure out what size is right for you. But it does have a 12.7 inch chainstay, which is a lot shorter than 13 inch. And this is going to make it really easy to have a responsive feeling style, meaning 360s are going to be easier, carving is going to be easier, and just those kinds of things. The bike is going to be really snappy. The reason that I wouldn't recommend this bike for learning tail whips is because of the single wall back rim and the high tensile steel back end. So it's a tri-moly frame. If you're not sure what that means, I'll go ahead and explain it a little bit, but I do go more in depth in a post on my site. Basically, tri-moly means the front triangle is chromoly. So the top tube, the head tube, and the down tube are all three going to be chromoly, and that back end is going to be high tensile steel. High tensile steel is a lot weaker and it bends. So as you do 360s, that single wall rim is going to bend and the back end is going to bend. So it's also going to be the same with tail whips. So just be careful when you're trying those tricks. Don't go crazy and completely destroy your brand new bike. It is a good bike. However, the kink switch is $500, comes with full chromoly, comes with double wall rims, and it comes with pegs. So if you're that kind of street rider who wants to be riding at a mid-level or even a high level, you can spend an extra $40 and get a bike that's going to have that better quality. I do think this bike is just a little bit overpriced because it's only single wall rims. Fitz bike line is the same way. It drives me crazy, but I understand times are tough and they need to make cuts where they can. However, personally, I've been like a bigger guy, even growing up, starting out on a bike, and I destroyed single wall rims. And I'd hate to see that happen to you. That's the only reason I'd recommend getting a better bike with a little higher quality. But if you're just starting out and you don't plan to ride this bike forever, it's not a bad choice and it'll get the job done. So that's the Subrosa Salvador, guys. Let me know which variation is your favorite and let me know if you have any questions. Alright, so the 2021 Subrosa Malum. Now this is a really good mid-level bike from Subrosa. It's one of the best overall bikes in their range, actually. So it has 100% chromoly frame, forks, and bars, and they've updated the frame specs and added even more aftermarket parts from Shadow and Rant. Meaning these aftermarket parts save you a lot of money in the long run because you don't have to add them later on. So there are no variations for this bike, and it is very well-rounded, meaning it's good on park, it's good on dirt, and it's good on street. Since it's not specific to a certain discipline, it's going to help you out, especially if you're not sure what your favorite style is yet. It's going to be for a mid-level rider who needs a bike that has good quality because they keep breaking parts. So if your previous bike is at the point where every time you drop down a stair set, something falls off or something breaks, it's time to start looking into a new bike, and this is a good choice for you. It's a good choice because it's going to be able to ride at the mid-level, and it's also going to be able to ride and withstand the tricks at the higher level. So if you plan to progress to that level, this is a good choice. Now it costs $540 and it comes in two different colors. It comes in a matte raw and it comes in an army green. Some important specs on this bike is the 21-inch top tube. This is not going to work out very good for smaller riders since it is a 21-inch. I'm pretty sure 21-inch is best for people who are going to be 5'8" or 6'2". If you're in between those sizes, this is a good choice for you. However, if you're smaller, look into something just a little bit smaller. It has a 13.2-inch chainstay, which does a really good job at balancing stability and balancing control without making the bike feel too sluggish. The 9-inch standover is good for pinching your seat when you start to throw bar spins or toboggans or suicide no-handers or anything like that. And then it has 30mm offset forks, which are right in the middle of the two really popular sizes, so it's going to provide a good balance of stability and responsiveness without being too far on either of those sides. So if you're a brand new rider, this bike is going to be too expensive and too high quality for you. I really wouldn't recommend it unless you know for sure that in the long run you plan to ride at a high level. If you're at a mid-level right now and you want to keep progressing, you want to keep riding, you want to keep trying different tricks, and you need a bike that's not going to fall apart on you, this is a good bike. And especially just because it's just a little bit over $500. To me, the price is definitely good. It's well worth the price. It has those aftermarket parts. It has the full chromoly, double wall rims, has everything you need to have a solid bike. The really cool thing about this bike is that everything is fully interchangeable and customizable, meaning if you want to upgrade to 4-piece handlebars and put some brakes on there, you're able to do that on this bike. So that's the Subrosa Malum. Leave a comment. Let me know if you like the matte raw or you like the army green better. The 2021 Subrosa Letum is a mid to high level bike designed for street riders and progression in the streets. It has a handful of aftermarket parts like the sprocket with a bash guard, 4-piece bars, 4 pegs, and hub guards. All those things make it really good for street riding. The cool thing about this bike is by buying it, you're saving a lot of money in the long run. Let me tell you what I mean by that. If you buy a bike that doesn't have any of these aftermarket parts because you're not sure if you want to get into street riding, but then later on you decide you do want to get into street riding, so you spend the money on the hub guards, the pegs, the sprocket, the 4-piece bars, and everything that makes your bike street orientated, you're going to be spending well over $150. So you could just buy a bike like this that's designed for street and save yourself that money in the long run. So this bike's going to be designed for a mid-level rider who really loves street riding. It has those higher quality aftermarket parts, meaning it's going to withstand to that mid-level to high-level riding. It also has full chromoly, which is going to make the bike last a lot longer than other bikes that have high tensile steel. So if you're a mid-level rider, you love street, and you really want to keep progressing with the sport, this bike is pretty good for you. However, it is pretty heavy. It weighs 29.1 pounds. Granted, that is with pegs, hub guards, and all that stuff. This bike is really good for learning grind tricks on, just because it has pegs on both sides. So you can do feeble, smith, ice pick, you can grind handrails, and then you can do all that trick opposite, which is something that not many riders are able to do. Now it comes in 2 different colors. It comes in black, and it comes in matte trans teal. The top tube is a 20.75 inch top tube, which is a little bit smaller than the previous bike, which was 21, meaning it's going to feel a little bit better for those smaller riders, and it's also going to be a little more responsive. It has a 13.2 inch chainstay, which is a good balance in stability and control without feeling too sluggish when you do spins. The 9-inch standover gives you something for your knees to pinch when you throw bar spins. It's also going to make toboggans and suicide no-handers easier than a frame with an 8.5 or an 8.75 standover. Now, is this a good bike? I definitely say yes, and this is one of my favorite bikes. Like I mentioned before, this is one that I include for mid-level riders who are looking for a street bike in the free BMX recommendations that I do. But in my opinion, it is a really good bike for a good portion of riders, especially if you love street riding. It's definitely worth the price. For just a little bit over $500, you get a bike with that full chromoly, perfect for street riding, double wall rims. You get a really high quality bike for not that much of a price. Now it definitely is worth the price, especially because it comes with full chromoly, comes with double wall rims, and it comes with all those aftermarket parts mentioned before. And that's the Subrosa Letum. If you want to see a more in-depth review, check out my website. I go a lot more in depth. I talk about the handlebar specs, the frame specs, and there's some pictures on there too. So the 2021 Subrosa Novus has two different options. It has a Trey Jones signature and it has a Matt Ray signature. Now first, let's talk about the Trey Jones signature. Almost everyone knows who Trey Jones is, the guy that puts together Florida Swamp Fest. It's a dream for a lot of people to make it out to one of those events, party and ride with Trey and all the other high-level BMX riders out there. Now this bike is nothing short of amazing, however, it's super expensive. It's a pro-level bike, and it's as close as you're going to get to something like Trey Jones' actual bike. They say it's basically his personal ride, just a little bit cleaner. Has 100% chromoly frame, forks, and bars, double wall rims, and lots of aftermarket parts from Shadow Conspiracy. Subrosa doesn't promise that you'll have the bike control that Trey does, but they say the bike is going to help you get closer to having that bike control. That's not necessarily true, but it is a really good bike. Normally, I don't recommend many people to buy these high-level pro bikes for a couple of reasons. Reason one, they're really expensive, and if you're going to spend that much money, you're almost better off just going with a custom bike. Reason number two, you could just get a custom bike and make it personalized for you. Now, if you're not the same size as Trey Jones, you don't want to ride the same style as Trey Jones, then why would you ride Trey Jones's bike? You're whoever you are, and the parts that you put on your bike expresses yourself, and it's also catered to your size and the style of riding you want to do. So if you are looking at a pro level bike like this one, consider a custom bike. It is going to be a little more expensive, but it's custom. Enough said, right? Now this bike is for someone who's already riding at a pretty high level and they just want a bike that is not going to cause them any problems. Those lower end bikes cause a lot of problems. The chains snap, the cranks bend, the wheels taco. With a pro level bike like this, you're not going to run into many of those issues. And if you do, it's going to be after many years of abuse. The bike costs almost $950 and it comes in one color. It comes in a matte raw. One interesting thing about it is the seat. It's not a pivotal seat, and you're going to see pivotal seats everywhere and on a lot of different high level bikes. So that's kind of interesting. It is a really good bike, but again, I don't think you need to spend this kind of money on a complete bike. You should spend it on a custom bike and make it perfect for you. So that's Trey Jones' signature. Let's talk about Matt Ray's signature. Now, just like Trey Jones's bike, the Matt Ray signature has that full chromoly frame, forks, bars, double wall rims, has a sprocket with a bash guard, and all those aftermarket parts from Shadow. Some of these parts on the bike are Matt Ray's signature parts, and when a bike company does this with aftermarket parts, it saves you so much money, and it really is amazing quality. So a lot of the parts that are normally on completes are mass produced, and they're cheap because bike companies need to make money. With aftermarket parts, they're able to put these on there because it costs them less than what they sell it for, and it's going to save you money in the long run. I'm going to go on the same rant about this bike as I did about Trey Jones. You really should look at building a custom bike before you look at buying a high-end bike like this, just because you can suit it to your style, your height, and make it yours. Okay? With that being said, it is a really good bike. It's really high quality and it's really strong. If you're riding at a mid-level or a high level and you want something that's going to last and last a while, this is a great choice. However, if you are not the right size for these dimensions, don't get it. It has really steep 26 millimeter forks, meaning it's going to feel really responsive and really snappy. So in the bowl, a slight turn of the wheel is going to carve a lot harder than you're used to, or it's going to feel a lot harder than 32 millimeter forks would. It has a 13.5 inch chainstay, which is pretty long, but you're going to be able to balance ice picks, manuals, bunny hops are going to feel easier, but it's going to be a little harder to do spin tricks with. And that's the Subrosa Novus. Alright, so that is going to be it for the 2021 Subrosa bike line. There's tons of different options in there, pretty much one bike for each kind of rider. If you like what I'm doing, you like these reviews, and you want to be updated when I post more, the 2020 Fit Bike Line review is on the way. Make sure you subscribe so you get notified when I do finish it and when I do post it. I'm always working on different kinds of content to help you guys understand BMX more and ultimately become a better rider.